The damage in Juniata County is bad, but the damage here in Perry County is also significant. This was a road, and you can see that now half of it is completely collapsed, and part of that guardrail that goes over the Buffalo Creek went with it. Fire crews quite literally had to cut through this metal gate just to get inside and then break down the doors to get into that building. That is because it could have massive implications on the balance of power in the Senate. I'm going to have you kind of walk with me just to show you what's going on, because more people are starting to trickle in. The former president here in Lancaster County at a town hall speaking for about 90 minutes, focusing on the economy and immigration, but also attacking his political opponents. And because of that assassination attempt, there is extra security. Nick, I'm actually going to have you turn your camera. You can see police here on horseback. They've been kind of coming up and down this road. What's your take on that, and what's most important to you as a voter? President Trump did create this program back in his first term when there were concerns about Russian interference in our elections. Since then, Secretary of State Al Schmidt says this program has done its job keeping our elections safe and secure, which is why he is so concerned it could go away. Gusty winds and dead trees all around me here at the Michaud State Forest. Words like ineffective and incompetent were thrown around a lot last night. It was just over 12 hours ago when a gunman walked in, held staff hostage, and then ultimately opened fire. Governor Josh Shapiro calling it the act of a coward. Now, both sides admit there are some good investments and good ideas in it, but Republicans are significantly worried about spending. You could very well be doing that for the Harris campaign. Why not? I've come here to ruin everyone's night. I mean, why go to Spirit Halloween and spend hundreds of dollars on a blow-up spider when you can have this lovely thing in your backyard? It is not difficult to see why residents are being asked to leave their homes after this fire tore through this apartment building.
Sarah Willson is a perfect person to do this, and she joins us now. Sarah.
Alicia, Valerie, so many topics were discussed. Everything from the crisis in the Middle East to social media and the economy. It was clear that both candidates had very different visions for the Commonwealth, and they went after each other to make that known. Experts I spoke with agree that this is a defining moment for both candidates.
Sarah Willson is here to tell us about it. Sarah.
Valerie, the Department of Government Efficiency has laid off thousands of federal workers. This state program has the same name and the same idea, but Mastriano says it's different. Former President Donald Trump swarmed by Secret Service agents and rushed off the stage during a campaign rally in Butler County. The Secret Service says this was a possible assassination attempt. Good evening, I'm Sarah Willson. We thank you for joining us. We do not know exactly what happened or the condition of the president, but if you take a live look at your screen, you can see hundreds of people now leaving that convention. That breaking news coming out of the Dauphin County prison tonight. A small plane crashing in Manheim Township, Lancaster County. Smoke seen from miles away when this happened just after 3 this afternoon. Our team is on the ground in Lancaster County. President Trump is threatening steep tariffs on Canadian lumber and dairy products, which could begin as early as next week. Police are investigating after a 13-year-old girl was shot to death in Harrisburg. Now officially the Democratic nominee for president, Vice President Kamala Harris is set to choose her running mate in the coming days, and it could be a familiar face. President Biden says a ceasefire and hostage agreement between Israel and Hamas is closer than ever. We now know tonight that 3 teenagers were taken into custody, all because of firearms. It's potentially good news for bars and restaurants. Governor Shapiro recently signed a bill that could expand happy hour.
Yeah,
it's
that's
fall.
good too.
Get your pumpkin spice.
That's right.
We'll join you for it at 11. Donald Trump stopping at Lancaster County's convention center as he travels across the biggest battleground state.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
The former president fielding questions from a mostly white audience. His primary focus, the economy, which polls show is the top priority among voters.
We're going to make our economy great, and you're going to really come along with it. And all of those other things that I talked about, including no taxes on tips, all of that's going to be just something very special.
But Trump not saying how he would do that. He also touted energy independence.
So we're going to let them frack, frack, frack like a duck. Frack, frack, frack.
Trump also talking about the immigration bill. Some Democrats blame him for killing.
The bill was a disaster, by the way. It was a horrible bill. Would have let people have immunity. It would have given people, millions of people would have allowed it to come in aimlessly.
He's vowing to secure the southern border.
I think what's happening at our border, where they're allowing millions of people to come into our country every year, totally unchecked and unvetted, coming from prisons and mental institutions and coming in as terrorists.
The former president not mentioning abortion, an issue he's behind on in the polls. Instead, he went after his political opponents, calling Vice President Harris a threat to democracy, also mentioning President Biden abandoning his re-election bid.
They took the presidency away. This is the first time in the history of our country, it was taken away like you take candy from a baby.
At one point, wishing Vice President Harris a happy birthday that was met by boos.
And by the way, it's her 60th birthday, so I want to wish her a happy 60th birthday. Right? No, happy birthday. And many more, and I mean it, so, I do mean it.
He entered carrying with him a bag that did include a handgun and zip ties.
Carrying that bag into the UPMC Memorial Hospital Saturday morning, police say, was 49-year-old Diogenes Archangel Ortiz. He headed straight for the ICU and held an unknown number of UPMC staff hostage, at least one woman bound with zip ties.
In total, he wound up discharging his firearm and struck 3 members of the UPMC staff.
Among the injured, a doctor grazed by a bullet, a nurse and a custodian also hit, all expected to be okay.
Mr. Diogenes Archangel Ortiz came out holding at gunpoint a member of the UPMC staff who was also had her hands tied with the aforementioned zip ties.
Then, an exchange of gunfire.
The officers, left with no recourse, did open fire and did shoot and kill Diogenes Archangel Ortiz.
The York County District Attorney says during that exchange, West York Borough Police Officer Andrew Duarte was struck and killed.
Officer Duarte was the best of us. He was someone who put on the uniform of service and went out to try and keep his neighbors safe.
Job well done, life well served.
2 other officers, one from Northern York County and another from the Springettsbury Township Police Department, also shot and in stable condition. The DA says it's, quote, absolutely clear officers were justified in using deadly force.
Quite frankly, they needed to use deadly force because by doing so, they potentially saved even more lives, even as they lost one of their own.
Governor Shapiro crediting hospital staff too.
I know that because they answered the call and ran toward danger, lives were saved. We saw the very best and the very worst of humanity.
The motive still unclear, but the DA says Archangel Ortiz was previously at the ICU with someone else. They didn't say who, but believe the shooting was targeted. A path of destruction left by Debbie. Heavy rain and high winds knocking down trees, flooding roads, and destroying homes.
It almost looks like a nuclear bomb hit.
Bellevue Park in Harrisburg bearing the brunt of it.
You know, where we're standing here, you go 3 blocks in either direction, and it is clear, and everything in between is a path of devastation and destruction.
Neighbors saw it firsthand. Kent Hurst, perhaps more than anyone.
I was terrified. I was screaming.
He says he heard what sounded like a freight train, and then
everything collapsed on me, and I was buried in wood and insulation.
It was from that tree. He's okay, but his home and so many others in the neighborhood are not.
As soon as we walked out, we were just in absolute disbelief.
The damage is different, but the stories and the shock are similar.
We were woken up about 4:30 with the sound of the wind and then things hitting the roof and then just all mayhem breaking loose.
We got lucky. It's terrible. I mean, it's the most freakish thing that's ever happened to us as homeowners.
But through it all, a symbol of hope. An American flag that stood for decades, now dangling proudly on a fallen tree.
Thank God everybody's safe, nobody was hurt, things can be fixed.